Lee Smith, it's great to speak with you here on X and other platforms. I wanted to talk to you today about Kash Patel. I was at his part of his confirmation hearings yesterday for FBI director. And one of the things I noticed was that there were a lot of what I would describe as attacks on his character. And
Hmm.
I've had a show with Cash for 2 years. We did 81 episodes. They were, in fact, they were referenced to the hearings. But I
Yeah.
actually first learned about Cash from your book, The Plot Against the President,
Hmm.
um, and got fascinated by him, by his focus on objective Medusa, as it was called. Not a lot of people even know that term, I think, today. But why don't we
Yeah.
start off here? Tell me about how you met Cash and how you were able to do this book.
Right. Well, I was writing about the investigation that they ran at House Intelligence, and this was looking into the different things that they were finding. And of course, Cash really, I mean, he Congressman Nunes, Chairman Nunes at the time, he saw different things that were a problem. He found or he was led to the unmaskings of Trump officials. And then he started to find out other things. There were different people in the NSC staff who were helping him, but they were pursuing a whole bunch of different avenues. And it was really when Cash came on in April 2017, that really changed the nature of the investigation and also the pace. And I report in the book how Devin, as he said, he hired Cash to knock down doors, and he did. And so I spoke with a lot of Cash's colleagues, and they were, I mean, he came in there talking. They said his partner, his investigative partner, whom I refer to as Jim in the book. It's not his real name, but I refer to him as Jim in the book. And Jim said, well, he was making a lot of big claims, but we were all kind of wait and see. But he made good on all those claims. So he's a very good leader. He's a terrific investigator. And the way his investigation started was that, well, first I got to read the Steele dossier. We got to see if any of these things make sense. So that's really how that investigation started. And then they wanted to find out who paid for the Steele dossier. And that's how they found out it was the Clinton campaign and the DNC who had paid for the operation against Donald Trump. And then they started getting into the FBI documents, including the FISA application, which was the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant to spy on Donald Trump. So that was really Cash who pushed that investigation. But one of the big things, I mean, I always loved that line. There are two lines in the book that stick out for me about Cash, and one was from Devin saying, "I hired him to knock down doors," and he did. And then there's another line, which is probably my favorite line in the book. Cash is describing how they were going to go about it and what they were going to do. And he said, yeah, and I told Devin it was like a multi-headed, hydra-headed. There was so many different things, so many different parts. So we had to cut off the head. And that's what we decided to call it, Objective Medusa. And it was such a, it was very, it was just very moving, because he said that that's how the team came together. And that's what the story is about. The story is about a team of people who did the right thing at a hard time. And so the idea of Cash leading a very big team, like the FBI, I think it's totally apt. I can't imagine. I mean, I haven't met, I don't think I've ever met someone who is who is a more impressive leader and capable of setting people on a mission and leading by example, and also by encouragement, and also wit and good humor too. I mean, I'm not sure if they had a tremendous amount of fun doing that investigation, but they talked about the late nights they had, the weekends at Christmas time that they spent putting together different material. So I think that everyone focused on, Cash and Devin, getting people focused on one mission. I mean, I really think that speaks to his leadership skills and his person to person skills as well. It's not easy, especially on the Hill, getting everyone to focus on a big project, and that's certainly what Cash did.
So one of the things that I noted, and I think this is important for him to share, and I think it's important for people to know, is that he spent a lot of time, being an incredibly effective both public defender and prosecutor in the Obama Justice Department.
Yeah.
Um, and went after terrorists, basically was, working alongside some of the SEAL teams to
Yeah.
prosecute some of the kind of worst of the worst. And he wasn't, this is the other thing, and this is kind of what made me want to work with him in the first place. Well, there were actually two things, and this is one of the lines in the book, actually, now that I think of it, that I like, where he said, of course, he loves saying "follow the money," right?
Yeah.
That's his strategy. But
Yeah.
he also said that he told Devin Nunes, and Congressman Nunes has confirmed this exactly. He said, wherever the money takes us, we need to publish that, even if it doesn't
Yeah.
look good for your side, so to speak,
Right.
right?
Well, yeah,
And so,
that's a very important thing that he said. He told Chairman Nunes at the time, he said, look, whatever we find, we have to come out with it. It might not be good for President Trump, but if we find something, we have to come out with this. He said, because I'm coming out of a place where a lot of people are not, and that was DOJ, where a lot of people were not doing the right thing. And I'm so sick and tired of people not being held accountable that the only way I'm coming on and doing this is if we do it the right way. And doing it the right way means holding everyone accountable who needs to be held accountable. So if there's bad information for Donald Trump, we're still going to come out with it. And Chairman Nunes agreed to it. And of course, we know what they found. They found, and this is a crucial part of this investigation that a lot of people don't really focus on. But Kash interviewed all of, and when I wrote Plot Against the President, these these documents have not been published, but they are the records of the testimony given by a number of senior Obama officials, whether it was John Brennan, whether it was Susan Rice, I mean, a number of big people, Loretta Lynch. And he asked me, he said, have you seen any evidence of collusion, of coordination, of conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia? And all of them said no. So basically, Kash had solved Russiagate by the beginning of 2018 with all of those different witness testimonies. What happened is that the director of national intelligence, Dan Coates, who was not an okay guy, right? He held on to all of those documents. But at that point, right, Kash had been through all the major players, including top intelligence officials from the Obama administration. They said, no, I haven't seen anything like it. You'll remember at the same time, while those documents were being hidden, Adam Schiff was going on, I've seen more than circumstantial evidence to prove collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. Well, that was garbage. But the only way that Schiff got away with saying it was because all those documents were being withheld from the American people, right? So that's a very important part of that investigation. Kash followed very simple procedures, very simple, basic line of questioning. Have you seen evidence of this? No, 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 nothing. Right. So that's a very, very big part of what happened there, and it speaks to, it speaks very clearly to his abilities as an investigator. And I'll say, you were talking about him as a federal terrorism prosecutor working with the SEAL teams and stuff like this. Well, he also worked with the FBI. And he loves the FBI. I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure, would be shocked right now to hear it, but he really he loved all the agents he got to work with to kick down doors. He loved the Department of Justice too. His colleagues there he liked very much. But as he makes very clear, the people who were behind Russiagate, he said these were not, his phrase was, I imagine this is a big FBI phrase, these were not squared away guys. And he was referring to James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, and other actors. But rank and file FBI, the guys who are out on the line, the guys who are catching bad guys, no, Kash loves them. So, it's very important. I think this is something we spoke about a bit before. It's very important, I think, to keep in mind what Kash, just his nomination was already done for the FBI, because you remember, Jan, before the election, and for basically several years now, people have been talking about disbanding the FBI. It can't be reformed. It can't be fixed. It's a garbage institution, right? We have whistleblowers, former FBI whistleblowers, who Kash was working with, and they said this is a terrible institution. You can't fix it. And what are people saying after Kash's nomination, right? It's like, oh, this is really exciting. Kash is going to get in there and he's actually going to fix the FBI. Well, there's no one else that Donald Trump could have picked that people would have turned around that quickly, right? Because anyone else that the president would have picked would have, well, more of the same. This is just going to be garbage. They can't reform that institution. They can't fix it. It should just be dismantled and sold off for parts, right? Let the U.S. Marshals handle some of this. Let DHS handle other parts, but the FBI is broken. So again, with the nomination of Kash Patel, people are like, wow, this is really great. This is super exciting. Kash is the man to go in there and fix the FBI. Why not? Not because he hates the institution. He loves the institution and loves the good people that are doing the good work there. It's the guys on top. It's the bad guys that are the problem.
The other thing that the reason that I was interested in doing a show with Kash was I noticed after kind of getting to know him, he actually showed up with me. I was at a conference doing live hits with people, and he showed up in like a t-shirt and cap, and he was kind of hidden under it. I didn't even recognize him because I had never met him before. And then I kind of looked underneath. Oh my goodness, you're Kash Patel. This is what a pleasant surprise. And he said, Lee told me about you. I appreciate your work. Anyway, we got to know each other. And one of the things I noticed as I talked with him about a whole bunch of substantive things, is that if he didn't know about something, he would say so. And this is, people will learn hanging out in DC, as you have, Lee, that's kind of a rare trait in DC.
Well, right. The real professionals, however, though, people who really know their job, they'll say, yeah, that's not my field of expertise. That's not my lane. So I can't speak to that. I can speak to this, and that. So yeah, I mean, Kash is he's very modest, but of course, I mean, one of the things that came out on your show, Kash's Corner, week after week, you guys were knocking it out, and Kash would give people information that they weren't getting anywhere else. Certainly not from places like CNN or MSNBC with a lot of their fake prosecutors. So what Kash knows about the law, what he knows about how DOJ works, what he knows about how the FBI works is amazing, right? And he's seen it from a couple of different angles now, right? From working inside DOJ and also from investigating DOJ, investigating the FBI. And the idea that a lot of people have been pushing for a while is, oh, he just wants to attack the DOJ. He just wants to undermine them. Look, the DOJ has its own inspector general that's supposed to be doing work, saying these guys did bad things, right? Where they have to be held accountable so that the American public will trust us that we're doing our jobs correctly. And that's all that Kash was doing as part of that investigation. He wasn't looking to uproot the FBI. They did it to themselves. James Comey, Robert Mueller, Christopher Wray, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, all the bad guys, they're the ones that destroyed the FBI. Not destroyed it. They're the ones that damaged the FBI. And it's up to Kash Patel now to restore its good name and once again make it what it once was, the world's most famous and the world's greatest law enforcement agency.
One of the things I didn't know about, I know you mentioned Kash's, being modest. I really agree with that. Of course, he was involved as a, senior director of counterterrorism and at the NSC and the, Trump 45. He was involved in, a number of these, very, very high profile raids. But something I didn't know about was he took this overland trip from Beirut to Damascus to try to negotiate, in Syria for Austin Tice, who has been, it's actually particularly meaningful to me. I'm a member of the National Press Club. We've been advocating to get Austin
Yeah.
Tice released for quite some time. And it's just it's a story I didn't know. And people
Yeah.
talk about things like this often, right? It's a little bit of bragging. It's not,
Right.
it's quite a, this is through Hezbollah. You would know better than I, but like Hezbollah
Yeah.
controlled territory, it sounds like to me, or some other actors of
Well, I
this
mean,
of this. Yeah.
the big thing. It's not just that it says Hezbollah, but I mean, I mean, there was a war going on in Syria at the time, and it was pretty hot. So that's the big thing. Traveling through there, I mean, that's where Austin Tice was kidnapped, traveling through Syria. So to go through there, even or sometimes, especially if you're a U.S. government official, it's dangerous. The other aspect of that is that this was a very important file. The hostage file is very important to Donald Trump. Why? Because Donald Trump loves America and he loves Americans. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry this is going to sound like too politicized for our great audience, but the fact is, look at all the Americans who've been held in captivity in Gaza, and the Biden administration did so little to get them out. And for Donald Trump, it's very important because he had Qasem Soleimani, IRGC chief, liquidated because he killed an American contractor in Iraq. So Donald Trump takes this very seriously, and he tasked Kash with that file. So it's a very important file, very sensitive file. So that also shows you how much President Trump trusts Kash and how much he respects him to get the job done. And in this case, of course, there are unfortunately a lot of other terrible issues. But yeah, this is something that Kash is working on, not just Austin Tice, but other hostages as well, held by very bad people around the world.
Yeah, and I mean, he also for a while gave the president's daily briefings, so he was trusted with some of
Mhm.
the most classified information available.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, I think to in the U.S. government. Yeah, I mean, overall, Lee, I
Mhm.
just wanted to take a moment to just discuss Cash as an incredibly
Yeah.
decent human being, someone who uh, never has struck me as being particularly political. In fact, I think
Yeah.
he will be a real credit to the FBI from the perspective of applying the law equally, right? And
Yeah.
that's just I actually think that kind of works out best for everyone in a sense, right? I
Mhm.
mean, whether it doesn't matter what your political stripes are.
No, of course not. That's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, another way to divide that, though, is between people who are serving the institutions inside Washington. And look, they always made a big deal. Oh, Christopher Wray is a Republican, and James Comey is a Republican, and Robert Mueller is a Republican. Yeah, I mean that's not really the party they're part of. It's not for them. It's not Democrat or Republican. I mean, they're serving the beast of Washington. So what you want is not someone who you want someone who knows how these buildings work, how these institutions work, but is not taking the side of the institution, who's taking the side of the American people, right? Who's siding with the American people, the U.S. Constitution. These are the important things. But I'll say one other thing about Kash, when I was talking about how, everyone, again, just, I mean, you could probably go right up to election day or after the election as what should we do with the FBI? Get rid of it. Look at how many people it's hurting. It's going after pro-life activists. It's going after school parents. Look at what it's done to January 6th defendants. It's destroyed lives, destroyed families, entire communities. And and people have turned around very quickly with Kash's nomination. But there's something else. It's not just that people are like, yeah, I guess the FBI can work. I mean, I think a lot of people are really enthusiastic, and you see it on social media. And you've seen these memes about Kash, since 2017, 2018. Truth Social, especially if you go there, you see the memes that people make about Kash. It's great, but people are very excited, and that's how it should be because we'll remember as kids the TV shows, right? Dragnet, or the TV show The Untouchables, and the movie The Untouchables, with the storied history of the FBI and all the amazing things that they did throughout our history. And kids are supposed to grow up like, wow, the FBI, it really is the world's greatest law enforcement agency. Well, no one thought that with Robert Mueller or with James Comey or with Christopher Wray. They thought it was, a politicized, gathering of goons who are going after the American public. And what people want to look up to is they want to look up to our great American institutions that are serving the American people, and especially kids. You know, if you see little kids and they learn it amazingly early. I have a 4-year-old, you know, a 4-year-old who's already just crazy about firefighters and police officers. Why? Because for some amazing reason, kids grow up and they want to protect and serve, right? These are the mottos of our, you know, of our law enforcement agencies: to protect and serve, to do right, to take care of your community, to take care of your family, to take care of your country. And they should be excited about places like the FBI when they go to the headquarters in Washington, D.C., or when they go to a field office. I grew up in New York City, so we would go to the field office in New York, you know, and you go through there and they have the T-shirts, and it's so exciting. You see the FBI badges and they show you, you know, here's a list of the bad guys, and how exciting as a kid. And so I really think that that's the kind of thing that Kash is bringing back to the FBI and to law enforcement. How exciting. Here's a guy who's going to go out and catch bad guys, and he's going to knock down doors. Kids should grow up like that. Kids should grow up with that as a role model. You know, everyone's complaining all the time. Kids have rotten role models, just a bunch of goony influencers on Instagram, or a bunch of psychopaths on Twitter, you know, but instead a role model, someone who loves the country, someone who loves its people, who reveres its institutions, and someone who wants to get bad guys. I mean, what better role model could you have for American children, boys and girls alike?
Lee, I think we're going to finish up. I completely agree with you. And you just reminded me of a couple of things. You know, one is him talking about at the Capital One Arena on Inauguration Day about how essentially he is the American dream. You know, his father escaped from Uganda, he said, from East Africa, genocidal dictatorship. And, you know, the parents get together and he, you know, gets to, you know, become a federal defender, prosecutor, and now possibly FBI director. The second thing I just thought of was that during the confirmation hearings, he stressed how important it is in the American legal system to give the best possible defense to people who might well be guilty, and how that's an inherent part of the American justice system and a critical part. So anyway,
Well, I mean, he did that job, right? Before he was a federal terrorism prosecutor, he was a federal public defender. So he's defended, he's defended the accused. Some were guilty, some were not, but he defended him. So it's not just that he believes in it. He's lived it. He's it's just amazing when you look at his wealth of experience. And so, I'm sorry if I keep picking on Christopher Wray and James Comey, but look at these guys. I mean, they're processed through the DOJ. They go back, they work at a big law firm. Where did Comey work? Comey worked for Ray Dalio, right? He was head of security. What an just the whole thing, just a kind of a creepy job, right? So that's what Comey did, along with James Baker, the guy he hired to be general counsel of the FBI, who was spying on Americans, not just at the FBI, but through Twitter, right? So what has Kash done? I mean, Kash has had a number of different jobs, again, as federal public defender, also at DOJ. But, he's not a guy who's coming out of a white shoe law firm and expects to be named in a top position like, FBI director or DOJ director, because that's how those guys act. He worked very hard. He's worked very hard. He's worked extremely hard. And, for, again, not only getting bad guys, not only protecting or defending the accused, but also, I mean, look at the stuff that he's done for January 6th defendants and for the whistleblowers, right? A lot of people have given him a hard time about this for a long time, but the people he was raising money for needed it, right? The whistleblowers. I mean, some of these people have just been, hunted by the Bureau, hunting these poor people and their families, Stephen Friend, Garrett O'Boyle. I mean, it's just miserable what they've done. And these are the people that Kash stood up for, along with January 6th families. So, yeah, the guy has had a lot of important experience. That all points to one thing. and that's serving the American people and following the U.S. Constitution.
You know, you just reminded me one final thing as I kind of sign off is he also stressed, and this was very interesting because he was grilled quite a bit on this question, that he was against leniency for anyone who actually committed violence against law enforcement, whether it was on January 6th or any other time.
Yeah.
So anyhow, Lee, listen, thank you for taking the time with me. Lee Smith, of course, you know, amazing author. So too many books to count. The Plot Against the President is the one that's sort of at on the top of my mind right now, because that's how I learned about Kash and ultimately gotten to know him and have a show with him. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan.